Welcome to Unsuitable on Rea Radio, the award-winning financial services and business advisory podcast that challenges your old-school business practices and the traditional business suit culture. Our guests are industry professionals and experts who will challenge you to think beyond the suit and tie while offering you meaningful modern solutions to help you enhance your company's growth. I'm your host, Dave Kane.
By 2020, millennials will make up 1/3 of the global workforce. Now, we've all heard a lot of people with a lot of opinions about millennials, and there are some pretty negative stereotypes out there today. But the fact is, these stereotypes, at least for the most part, are really wrong and misguided. We'll help you out with that today, folks. For example, a lot of people are quick to assume millennials are lazy, but most of them work more than 40 hours a week, and a good chunk of them will work around 50 hours without batting an eyelash because they want results. Contrary to what you may have heard, there are some really hardworking millennials, and we're going to introduce you to a couple of those here in a few minutes. We are fortunate to have some really great young talent on our team at Rea Associates, so we brought them to the podcast to ask them to speak about what attracts them to their job and what keeps them here. Of course, they will be speaking on behalf of their entire generation. So, no pressure, guys. Sarah Sparks and Deirdra DiVittis. Sarah Sparks and Deirdra DiVittis are two of our younger team members here at Rea. They both work from our firm's office in Dublin, Ohio, in our state and local tax department, and also as QuickBooks consultants. They also dip their toes in some auditing and tax, so a wide range of experience. I wonder if that's where the similarities end. Let's find out. Welcome to Unsuitable, Deirdra and Sarah.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having us.
Well, good. Sorry about the alphabet problem with your name. My notes weren't quite where they needed to be, but we'll get those worked out for you. So, welcome to Unsuitable. So we want to kind of welcome you as first-time guest to the podcast. Welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to some great insight. So, Sarah, we want to start with you. You are in the state and local tax area, also known as the SALT Squad here at Rea Associates. And can you tell us a little bit about what attracted you to that part of your job?
So my background is in accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll. So I had experience with sales tax and use tax, doing that in industry. And I also am going to school to get my paralegal studies degree. So it just made sense to go into tax. And Joe Pop needed a CSS to fill the position.
So it just hit your skill set at the right time, in the right moment.
Yeah. So,
I think we probably should throw out a little bit of a disclaimer that neither one of us work in HR, human resources, and this is a bit of a HR slant, and so we want to throw that disclaimer out. We're just going to talk about fellow colleagues and how to make each other's job easier. Sound okay, Deirdre?
Sounds great.
So you are, just a little background, you spend, 90% of your time working in the QuickBooks field?
Yeah.
And what is there a particular area you like in QuickBooks more than another?
I'm not really sure what I like more, I guess. I'm certified as a pro advisor for QuickBooks Online, Desktop, and Enterprise. So lately I've been doing a lot of online work, just because I have a client that requires a lot of bookkeeping work right now. So I've been in online mostly lately, but yeah, I spend a lot of time in QuickBooks.
So we're going to have you come back and talk to us about some QuickBooks at a later date, but because we're not going to dive too deeply into QuickBooks or state and local taxation, but we'll cover that a little bit. But I need your advice. You guys good at giving advice? As you might have guessed, I'm a baby boomer, and the two of you are millennials, and so we have to talk about how we're going to work together as a team, as colleagues, a little better. So you're going to help me with that process. You guys ready for that?
All right.
Okay. Deirdre, I'm going to throw this to you. When we need to communicate on engagements, what's the best way for me to communicate with you?
Email would probably be the best because if I'm not at my desk and you need something from me, I can reply to it on my own time whenever I'm available. Like if I'm in a meeting and you need something, and then I can respond whenever you're busy with something. So email is really great.
You love emails? Okay, so do I have to email you between like 8 and 5, or can I do it 24/7?
Whenever you want to.
Oh, okay, 24/7. Okay, I'm going to check that box. Sarah, I'm going to throw this to you. In the opening, we talked about millennials work 40 hours, 50 hours. They're kind of working all over the place. Is your job an 8 to 5 job?
Currently, yeah, it is here, but previous jobs that I had, no. It was like you were given a certain amount of work each day that you had to finish. So my weeks looked like 50 to 60 hour weeks.
So it's all over the place. It's results. It's not how many hours.
Right. But here at Rea, definitely have like a better work-life balance.
So, I might have to challenge this. You work 8 to 5. I do have a story about you I want to throw out to you just to see if what you're telling the audience is actually true. And accurate content. So I understand several months ago you and your team took a trip to Washington, D.C. to listen to a hearing in the Supreme Court on the South Dakota v. Wayfair case. Do I have my facts correct?
You do.
Okay. Was that an 8 to 5 job?
That was actually 3:45 in the morning to like 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
For those 3 days.
For those 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's all over the place. So let's go to that. Was that a really professional, pleasing trip? I mean, is that something you'll remember the rest of your life?
Definitely. Yeah. Just the entire experience, having to get up at like 2:30 in the morning to get ready to go out to the line. We definitely learned like how it worked in case we ever wanted to take another trip back to Supreme Court. Actually, like seeing the justices there in person, it was completely surreal. I mean, even though we were completely exhausted by 11 o'clock when we finally got in, we were just so excited. Our excitement kept us awake.
So from my perspective, as a baby boomer and a coach and a mentor, I have to look to give you opportunities in your day-to-day work. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. But there should be like a balance of like letting us kind of dip our toes into things on our own, have a little bit of autonomy, but still like structured guidance.
You mean not bug you to death every hour or so? I don't think you got that project done yet, huh?
Right.
You want some freedom? So, Deirdre, let's talk a little bit about differences between with dress code between millennials and baby boomers. You have any great insight on dress code? How should I manage that? How should we have a conversation about dress code?
I think that's a tough question. I come from my former employer didn't have a dress code, so sometimes I would wear sweatpants to work, and that was normal. My boss did it too. Here we have more of a business casual environment, and that's been a little bit difficult to understand, I think, because that's such a vague and broad term that a lot of people don't really understand like what that means. Can I wear jeans? Can I not wear jeans? Are flip-flops okay? So I think that the business casual kind of catch-all is really hard for a lot of people to understand what that means. I think that if you're going to have a dress code and that's something that you're, as an employer, really concerned about, you should be as specific as you possibly can, because if you're just making these vague, like, oh, just dress business casual, well, what does that mean? That means something different to everyone, right?
So I think you hit on a tremendous topic there that you know, a lot of businesses today do, you know, and that's their dress code. It's business casual, but that means many different things to many different folks. As a baby boomer, that means something other than a coat and tie. And folks in your group, it could be sweatpants and cutoffs and flip-flops. So, Sarah, do you want to add to this dress code? You're sitting there, you're just enjoying that conversation that as we put Deirdre under the microscope on that. So, what are your thoughts on dress code?
Yeah, actually, before coming to Rea, I worked for various different companies that had different dress codes. The first one that I worked for had a business casual dress code. They were like pretty clear with what you could and couldn't wear, like what wasn't considered business casual, and that was obviously jeans and flip-flops. The next one that I worked at, we had to wear professional attire, so you had to wear like heels and like a skirt or like dress pants, like you couldn't wear khakis. And then the last one that I worked for before coming to Rea, it was like there was no dress code. You could wear jeans. They actually like felt uncomfortable if you dressed up. They kind of like got worried, like, oh, are you going to go in for an interview somewhere else? I think that's like kind of the gauge, the scale.
Right. So I think our takeaway on that, especially dress code, and we get a lot of questions on that, is more definition, more discussion, more definition versus dictation. So good point. We'll put that in our notes, and I'm glad our listeners they're gonna hear that and say, all right, we've been talking about that for many months, and so thanks for that insight. I want to switch gears a little bit, still stay on this millennial versus baby boomer, and trying to help me out. And I don't know if I've caught you guys doing this, but maybe, and I just didn't know this, is I walk by your desk and you have headphones on or earbuds on, and I'm like, wow, that was, back in the good old days, you just didn't do that. What are you guys listening to while you're working? Deirdre, that's to you. It's got to be George Strait, I would think. Huh?
So at my last job, we were actually encouraged to wear headphones. It was in accounts payable, and we're just looking at invoices all day. So having headphones in, I think, does a couple things from a management perspective. It keeps people from talking to each other, right?
Oh no!
But it also if you're listening to something uplifting and upbeat, it can actually make you work faster and be more productive. And it makes work more enjoyable. So it's a win-win for management and for the employee. I have actually listened to headphones a couple times here. Lately, I've been working on this really big QuickBooks project for a client, and I'm cleaning up a year's worth of bank recs and other issues that they've had with a former employee. So it's helped me to just kind of zone out and focus on, this is the task that I need to do. I need to enter all of these deposits. I need to get these bank recs done.
Rock and roll and QuickBooks go together, don't they?
Yep.
Sarah, what in the world are you listening to in this as you do the state and local taxation and register states and talk about this nexus and sales tax exemptions? You got to be listening to some really good stuff.
Actually, I'm just listening to whatever's coming out of the speakers that we have. Do
you have a say in what's on the music?
Generally, no. I don't have like the secret password to get into the IT room.
Need a secret password. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Talk to me a little bit about challenges. Can I do a better job challenging you in your job each and every day?
Yes. I think, at least from my perspective, a lot of us younger entry-level people, we really like to be challenged and be given opportunities to try something new. So, for example, Melaine has a client that has 3 Schedule Cs that she just kind of tossed me, and I've never done one before. I have no background in tax prep at all, and she's like, see what you can do with this, and having that ability to just take a shot at it is really great. It is really challenging, and there have been times where I've been stumped on it, but I always have her or other people in the office that I can go to for questions.
So being stumped is okay. You're okay with that?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
learning opportunity.
Okay. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely have to second that. I like being thrown into the deep end and see if I could sink or swim. And then, yeah, once you like hit a wall, that's, you know, like when you've hit the wall, and you know that that's when it's time to go check in with your supervisor.
Okay. So when I give you a challenge, throw you in the deep end, how long should I give you until I kind of check on you? Is there a rule of thumb? This is according to Sarah. You know, there's no book. I told you we're not HR professionals.
Yeah, I guess what we're relying on you for is to know that. In your experience, like you probably have done these things before. You wouldn't just give us these projects and expect us to know it when you don't, right? So you should probably be the one gauging.
So, okay, the message there is better check up on you within a reasonable period of time.
Well, yeah. If you give someone a task to do and it might take, you think it's going to take 2 hours, it should take 2 hours. And maybe I'll say, yeah, I'm going to work on this after lunch. And if by the end of the day you don't hear from me, maybe you should check on me before 4:30 rolls around. Hey, how's that going? But, you know, sometimes things come up and it does take longer to do a certain task, but check-ins are always appreciated.
Deirdre, great insight. So more feedback.
Yes.
I can give more feedback on a more continuous basis.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of sum that up?
Yeah.
And be nice about it.
Yeah.
Not be grumpy.
Yeah, definitely.
Am I grumpy?
No, Dave, you're great.
Yeah.
You're wonderful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there'll be a little extra royalty for saying that once this podcast hits the podcast community. You know, let's talk about coaching and mentoring, because we've touched base a little bit on a few of those things. Coaching and mentoring has a lot of different meanings to a lot of different groups. And Deirdre, I want to talk to you a little bit. Maybe you can tackle this. How do you feel about a strong coaching and mentoring program? Is it something you look forward to, something you need and want and look forward to on a continuous basis?
I actually really love that about Rea. The formal coaching structure that we have isn't something that I've really experienced before. So whenever I started here, I was planning already on taking some classes at Columbus State this semester so I can get my 150. I'm 4 credits away. And so throughout the summer, Trista kind of every once in a while checked in with me. Hey, how's it going? Have you registered for those classes yet? And it's really nice to have somebody holding me accountable so that I can reach my goals too.
Mm-hmm.
So very goal-oriented. You're looking for, hey, let's get some goals and help me get there. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I really liked, after having like my year-end evaluation, I really liked coming up with my goals. I like that we use the SMART goal format. We set up like the goal, we have a date on there, make sure that it's attainable.
Hey, we just had a question from the audience that came in. You didn't know we were allowing open forum questions from the audience, so I'm going to read this. So this is not my question, but this is from one of our members of the audience here. How do you learn best? Sarah, go for it.
I think that I definitely learn best by hands-on training. So maybe seeing like my trainer do it first and then trying it myself.
Okay. Deirdre?
I would have to second that.
It's just, ongoing support and the challenge, and good, okay. You know, we talked about embrace different backgrounds, education, training. We talked about that with you guys. Mm-hmm. You know, we haven't touched base on this thing called compensation and benefits. Now, you know, when we're talking about baby boomers and millennials, do we talk about compensation? Is that a fair conversation we can have on a regular basis? Sarah, you're like ready to hit me.
Right. No.
I didn't do your last evaluation. You know?
No, yeah, definitely. I think like the year-end reviews are a good time to talk about compensation. Like there should be a reason to talk about it. You should have like evidence of why, if you want a raise, you should get the raise. and there should be a time and place to talk about it. You don't want to just like storm into your boss's office and like demand a raise or something, right?
Well, that's probably not the best way to do it, but I don't know. Maybe that's the way millennials do it. You know, you walk in, hey, we're going to talk about compensation. But I think you hit on a key point there. You know, tell me how my performance is going, and tell me about that on an ongoing basis, and let's have open conversation about compensation. Deirdre, anything to add to that?
I think that it is a really valuable exercise for employers to schedule time on, say, an annual basis to have that conversation and make it an open and as transparent as possible conversation.
And what about benefits? How do you feel about benefit packages? Not necessarily raise package, because we do a number of things, but as you entered the workforce and continue to grow within the workforce, are benefits important to you? Sarah, go for it.
Yeah, they've definitely become more important to me. Before, they were just like kind of confusing, and I just like checked the boxes, like, okay, I have to have health insurance. All right, I'll just sign up for like whatever. But now, starting my family, like I just got married this summer. So I actually started like thinking about, oh, okay, what kind of benefits do I need for the future, and like who needs to be on my plan and stuff. Like, how do I get the plans changed? So yeah, those benefits have definitely become more important to me.
So if I understand that, initially, as you entered the workforce and entered with Rea, probably not at the top of the list. There were other things you were looking for that you described, but as I don't want to say mature. That's not the correct use, because you guys are mature, very mature. But as you developed in the workforce and started raising a family and expanding the family, benefits became way more important. Deirdre, anything to add on the benefit front?
I agree with what Sarah said. It's also, I think, worth noting that because of recent legislation, like a lot of us younger people are still under our parents' insurances until we're in our mid to late 20s. So that definitely has an impact on that conversation. When I graduated from college, I definitely wasn't worried about benefits because I was still on my mom's health plan, but now that's changed for me.
So that's a bit of change in your thinking as you advance through your career path. So again, I want to kind of summarize a few things we've talked about that are important to you. Earbuds and music, or a few distractions along the way, just not white noise and so forth. That should be fine. Benefits certainly on the increase for your colleagues as you get in your profession. Opportunities, I think, are important. Challenges are important. Coaching and mentoring are important. Out of all we've talked about, if you're mentoring, let's turn this around and you're mentoring me as a baby boomer, what two things are you going to tell me to work on this next year and how we communicate or work together? Sarah, you're up.
All right.
Two things.
So the two things I'd say are definitely, I guess, be patient with us as we learn, and also just keep the door open so that we can come in and ask questions, invite questions.
Okay. Deirdre?
I really like what Sarah said about keeping the door open. I think that particularly in my past work experience, not being able to go to your supervisor and ask for help and ask for, hey, can you explain this to me so that I understand it, so I know, not to make that mistake again next time, that's huge.
Do you guys really think there's a big disparity between baby boomers and millennials like we hear about?
Definitely not. No.
No? Overrated?
Yeah, I think that stereotype is definitely overrated for
Some
sure.
companies maybe, but
yeah, but here in the public accounting sector, I guess, like at Rea specifically, everybody, it just seems like we're treated equally. We're treated all like peers, even when you're interacting with your boss and stuff.
So Deirdre, we're going to bring this podcast home. Anything to add to that?
Well, we actually talked about this at lunch, and we were talking about, is our experience that we're having in our 20s really any different than a baby boomer's experience in their 20s? And the kind of conclusion that we came to was times are different, technology's different, but our wants are still the same. We still want, to buy houses, and we still want to go to work and have full-time jobs and have careers.
So you mind if I ask you a QuickBooks question before we leave this? I know we're not supposed to ask QuickBooks on this. Look, they're waving at me. No
that was
QuickBooks.
your rule.
No QuickBooks question. What's your favorite version to work with clients? Is it the online version or desktop?
I like desktop better.
You like desktop better?
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah, that question wasn't towards you.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Okay.
Desktop is the best.
Our guests today have been Sarah and Deirdra with Rea Associates here in Dublin, Ohio. As you can see, our listeners can hear, we have some tremendous talent, and I was very pleased to introduce the podcast community to both of you, and I hope you both will come back again, and we can talk about the same topic or dive into registering Nexus applications in various states. Boy, that sounds exciting. Yeah. Thanks again.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, look forward to it. Well, thanks again for joining us today. I've enjoyed talking to you. You certainly provided me with some great insight into the millennial mindset. Not all that different than mine, and again, I appreciate that. I hope other business leaders will consider what we talked about today as well. Listeners, in addition to today's team of millennials, we've had some really great guests on the show talking about the changing workforce and how to identify top talent. I encourage you to check out these past episodes as well as some of the other great resources we have on our page at raycpa.com podcast. Did you enjoy today's episode? Let us know. Like it, comment on it, or share it. And don't forget to check out videos of our podcast on YouTube. Until next time, I'm Dave Kane, encouraging you to loosen up your tie and think outside the box. What is that?